First of all, I want to thank you everyone for having me here. My presentation is about beginning of oil industry in Iran, a country which I come from and which is really far from here. Let me start by showing you a picture as I believe is the beginning of oil industry in Iran. It is the first oil eruption in Iran which happened on May 26, 1908 in Masjid Soleiman, and we will reach it soon. The oil industry in Iran has a long story, and most of this story is occupied with political issues, which I'm not going to elaborate on. I'm going to emphasize on the first part, as I said, beginning of the oil industry. But before 1901, which is a great landmark in oil industry story, we have some traditional fossil fuels exploration. So let's see this man here, which you may know, Marco Polo, traveled the Silk Road in the 13th century, and in some parts of his story, he says something that I have seen in some part of Armenia. People are gathering something which is dark and black and use it for medical purposes. This thing is pitch, and in my country we call this qir, and it's really hard to pronounce it for European languages. But I draw your attention to this historic and, let's say, ancient water purifier in Susa, which dates back to 13th century before Christ. And I hope you can see these black dots here, which are the mortar for this building, and they are pitch for being water resistant. Just some kilometers near this water purifier, there are some other signs of pitch and oil on the field, like this pitch stream in Ram Hormuz, or Tashkuh in Ram Hormuz, which is a mountain that permanently burns, and the burning well in Naft Safid. So these signs made this man here, William Knox Darcy from British Petroleum Company, to come to Iran and try negotiation with the King of Iran to sign a contract on 1901 and gain the right for exploration the parts of Iran in favor of finding oil. So William Knox Darcy wasn't really lucky, because he has spent 7 years exploring this part of the country in Khuzestan, and his business was about to collapse. And on the final days, finally he came on and Naftun oil field. Then on 1908, the oil industry began in my country, and William Knox Darcy became a really and severely rich person. So let me just point out to some British man here and some local people from my country, and let's move back to Masjid Soleiman. Soon after finding oil in Masjid Soleiman, this city was established. British people used to call this city MIS, which is a short form for Masjid Soleiman. And this city is famous as the city of firsts in my country. First football stadium, first golf club, first transportation by train, first airport, first supermarket, and let's say first every sign of modernization in my country and in Middle East began in Masjid Soleiman. Just some days after finding oil, William Knox Darcy started building a refinery in Abadan. Here is Masjid Suleiman and here is Abadan. As you can see, he chose Abadan, which is barren land on the edge of Persian Gulf, related to all the high seas. And by building this refinery, this city became the top oil city and the most modernized city in Middle East. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you some picture. This is the first refinery in Middle East, in Abadan. As I am an architect, so I'm going to show you some buildings and urban planning pictures. This is Abadan Port. You can see one of the very first cinemas in Middle East, one of the modern sport facilities, and the airport, which was an international airport. Several British and American people used to go and come to Abadan, and Abadan Airport and Abadan Port played a really vital role in both world wars, since Britain was in war with Russia and Iran was in the way. Abadan urban planning is consisted of some quarters, and most of the houses in Abadan are typical, but let me draw your attention that you see the refinery is in the heart of the city, and the houses were built around the refinery. You can see some types of Abadan housing here. Most of them are for higher classes. We have smaller buildings and smaller houses for workers, which unfortunately I don't have any drawing from. And I can say that the booming situation of economy and oil in Abadan was the last days of oil industry, and after that all we have is political and historical issues, and that I'm not going to elaborate on, as I have said before. But before I finish, I need to mention some other names of cities which are oil cities, not ordinary cities in my country. These red dots here are early oil cities, and recently these blue dots are other oil cities with refineries or oil wells or oil facilities. But I'm going to leave you with some pictures of my favorite oil city, Naft Sefid, which translate to white oil, or in Polish, biała nafta, if I'm not mistaken. And in this city, some people do not use lamps, I mean electronic lamps. They use gas that comes from the ground and burns permanently. And here you can see the old cemetery, the old bathroom, the old baths, and the old church here that used to belong to British people, and now it's a mosque. So thank you all. If you want to know more about oil industry in Iran, I kindly invite you to visit this website or read something on the thematic studies that James has presented recently, part of Abadan. Thank you so much.